Hello everybody, this video presentation is in support of chapter 13, which looks at supply chain management and its connection to the merchandiser role. And I'm very pleased to introduce you to Jackie Broomhead, who works for GS1 Global Standards. Hi Jackie, how are you today?
Good morning, I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Thank you. Perhaps, Jackie, you could start by introducing yourself and explain what you do and briefly what GS1 does.
My name's Jackie. I'm the Senior Engagement Manager for Brands at GS1 UK. My background is fashion design, merchandising and buying, as well as management consulting for the broader retail sector. So GS1 is an industry not-for-profit. We're a global organisation, and our entire reason for being is to develop global supply chain standards that make it easier for businesses to trade together. So the standards function to create a common language or a common way of working between different organisations. And the best known standard is probably the EAN barcode, or you might know it as a GTIN, a Global Trade Item Number.
Okay, so that's interesting because if we think about barcodes, I guess the majority of people see them as price labels that you scan within a store. So could you take us back to the beginning? So we have a product that's been made in a factory. So what does that barcode or GTIN do to help the flow of stock?
Yep, so barcodes are what we call AIDC technology. This stands for Automatic Information and Data Capture. So what it's really doing is when you scan a product, you're taking the information that's on that barcode and you're automatically putting it into a machine without human intervention. So what this basically means, it's a really simple way of capturing information systemically that will then power other systems and processes throughout the supply chain. So whether that's recording the sales activity at a till, receiving deliveries, shipping goods, all of it's really powered by scanning a barcode.
Okay. So from a merchandiser's perspective, that's a really powerful tool because once they have planned the financial budgets, which includes a stock budget for a season, and they have plotted through product deliveries to match those stock plans, of course, the danger for the merchandiser is that they're in the retail organization and the product could be with the manufacturer, it could be with a shipper, it could be at customs, it could be at a consolidator, it could be at a distribution center. So I guess the benefit from a merchandiser perspective is it gives them visibility. It allows them to see at any one point where their stock is, how it's flowing through the system, and then allow them to make commercial decisions based on the information that they have. Would that be fair?
Yes, and if you think about, if you break the supply chain down to its kind of core tenets, it's really about the transfer of information and goods or materials from point A to point B to point C. And most of the challenges that we find happen in the supply chain occur either because that information is not correct, or there's not visibility of what's happening at either point, or delays basically. And a lot of that can be countered by having barcodes and systems in place to give you that visibility and give you that accurate information easily.
So I would then guess a logical development that takes that technology or that capability further is then the use of things like RFID as the tools with which you can trace products, because obviously a barcode in itself, unless it's transmitting something, it can't actually communicate. So the barcodes must be talking to something, which I guess is where RFID comes into it. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's actually, if you look at kind of the history of how we got from barcodes to RFID, it's actually quite interesting. So if you kind of cast your mind back to probably the 70s and 80s when retailers weren't using barcodes, if you think about the point of sale, all that you would really capture is the price of an item, And if you go into some corner shops today, they'll still have these types of cash registers where they're just keying in the price. At best, they might have a category. When barcodes came in, it actually gave retailers visibility of exactly what was selling as well as the price. But as we've moved, we've become more digital, and we've got more routes to market through e-commerce and globalization, more margin pressure because we've got more competition. There becomes a greater impetus for retailers to be able to actually have visibility of every instance of every product going through their supply chain. The other thing that's driving that is the rise of traceability and sustainability, and knowing exactly where your product has come from. So anyone that's not familiar with RFID, it stands for radio frequency identification. And it's similar to a barcode in that it enables you to identify a product quickly. But there's two key differences between a barcode and an RFID tag. So firstly, a barcode will recognize, say, a size 8 dress in red. It'll recognize a product at the variant level. An RFID tag will have that same number structure as a barcode, but then it adds a serialized number onto it. So you're identifying every single instance of that size 8 red dress throughout your supply chain. The other thing that RFID does, which is quite impressive, so with a barcode, you need to physically hold the product up to the scanner in order to be able to read it. With RFID, when you turn on an RFID reader, it will send out like a conical beam of RFID waves, and then it will pick up any RFID tag within range of the reader. So to compare the two of them, a human with a barcode scanner can count about 200 items per hour. With RFID, you can count about 20,000 items per hour. So it's brilliant for things like being able to do regular stock takes in store, or if you're receiving goods or shipping goods, being able to kind of wheel them through an RFID tunnel and know exactly what's in that shipment. So yeah, it's very much kind of how things are moving in the future.
That's actually interesting. It's interesting you're talking about the 70s and 80s. My career started in the mid 80s. And I can remember that when we moved from what were known as Kimball tags, which were the non-barcode price labels, it took 8 seasons for those old Kimball tags to be flushed through the stock inventory before the barcodes before all stock within the organization was fully barcoded, which then allowed an accurate recording process of stock. And as you say, in those days, it was a more sophisticated way of stock control and stock takes. And as the technology has developed, as you say, through things like RFID, and I also guess it also has some connection with enabling proprietary systems in, say, retailer, manufacturer, wholesaler, etc., to link up, so you get a single version of the truth, as it were, so that you can see existing and pipeline stock. The benefits of efficiency and speed to market are enhanced, which in a fast fashion environment, or at least a very fast, agile supply chain, is really important. So what would you say are the future developments of where this is going to go? Have we exhausted capability, or is there some way that we can enhance supply chain visibility, perhaps embedding some form of barcode or GTIN into fabric itself, so we can sort of plot stock once it's been sold? And would that be something we would want to do?
Yeah, really good question. So I think with e-commerce, a lot of brands are now more interested in doing D2C or direct to consumer sales, or having a relationship with their customer after they've purchased the product and left the store, whether that was sold, in their own store or in, say, a John Lewis, or through another third party like Amazon. So we are seeing an increasing trend for suppliers wanting to put things on their products that enables them to do that, like a QR code or an RFID NFC tag that enables the customer to then, scan the product, find out more information, register it, get a guarantee on it or a warranty, or learn how they can, better take care of their product, and then kind of stay in contact with the brand to learn more about, other products or other kind of information relating to that brand. So I think we will see a lot more of this as we kind of move increasingly digital. Quite a large number of brands in the UK and globally are using RFID. So H&M, Zara, Marks and Spencer, River Island are just a few. We will see that increase as well. And we'll see retail becoming increasingly more digital. And that was already happening through, the shift towards e-commerce, but I think COVID has really amplified that. So apparently the market share of e-commerce now is where it was meant to be in 2025. And that's really driven because of the pandemic, because people can't go into stores. Even though you can go into stores, you can't try anything on. So you might as well just purchase it online. And with online, it really drives kind of a few key things. You need to have much better visibility of your stock across all channels, and you need the flexibility to be able to move it from different channels. So doing things like picking from store to fulfill a customer order, as well as being able to pick from your DC, and then also, processing returns, whether in store or in the warehouse that have been purchased online. So I think all of that really requires a much more digital approach, and the standards really help you do that. So we will see greater adoption of things like RFID. And in the future, we also expect to see greater adoption of traceability standards as brands are increasingly looking upstream and how they can get greater visibility of where products are made, how they're made, and provide that information to the customer.
Absolutely, and it also will help with the circular economy as well, because you can then trace where things are moving back upstream as well. And actually, just one final point, it actually pulls the consumer almost fully into the supply chain, because in the past, supply chains were very much about pushing things to the consumer. The consumer had to choose what they wanted to buy from what they were offered. Now, through social media and digital, consumers are able to influence what is made, when it's made, and how it is made. But by engaging in technologies such as this within products itself, possibly even brands developing a lock-in with the consumer by saying, buy this product and we'll give you a super duper piece of equipment where we can then track your requirements post-sale, whether it's a return, whether it is selling it on, whether it goes into peer-to-peer, and you can actually then perhaps use that as a way of getting in touch with the customer, saying, Hannah, you've had that pair of jeans now for 15 years. Why don't you return it? We will upcycle it in whatever way we do, and in return we will give you a discounted pair of jeans or something like that. It may be a really fantastic way of developing the consumer relationship with a fashion brand.
Yeah, and I think if you look to sort of 5 or 10 years ago when RFID first came out, one of the big concerns was actually customer privacy. When RFID was initially kind of published, people referred to it as spy tags, and they thought that it would actually track them, which it doesn't do. But if you look at younger consumers, they're not concerned about that. They don't have an issue with giving their information over, or with being tracked on the internet or cookies or anything like that. They're much more comfortable and trusting of technology. So I think that they're also much more concerned about sustainability. So I think that we definitely will see that relationship between the brand and the customer extend beyond the transaction, and that customer being a kind of a key part of the supply chain in terms of its return journey back through the circular economy.
Yeah, wow. So very exciting capability at the moment, but look ahead and there's even more exciting things to come, I think. With that, thank you very much, Jackie. That was very interesting. And I wish you and all at GS1 every success in driving forward the rate of change. Thank you very much.